Hello everybody, this is Terry doing an astrology report today on Donald Trump and the Ides of March that are coming soon with an eclipse portal in March and so much crazy making wildcard energy coming in with Uranus this March. I just wanted to look and see what is gonna happen next for Trump, who was born during a powerful eclipse time himself. And like any eclipse babies, he is a true change maker of our world. For better or worse, love him or hate him, Trump makes change. And he is really bringing in a whole whirlwind of change to our democracy, to our broken systems. And this year, with Uranus having some major transits, especially on March 22nd, we can really see that he is spurring on the end of an era, the end of our democracy as we know it. And it is all so meant to be, really. He's just someone playing his role in this whole scenario that is ultimately bringing us to a kind of collective revolution, a collective awakening that has really been Pluto in Aquarius this whole time. He is causing our country to wake up with his shakeups. And he's making real changes necessary right now. And ultimately, I believe it's going to save our world because people are getting involved and people are wanting to step in. And it may seem bleak right now for some of us, but I encourage you to be like that eagle on the high ridge, just taking a higher perspective now on the whole drama that is playing out. And when he first got elected, I was really thinking about the theme song from a series of unfortunate events. I loved that show. It was really cute. And there's that song that goes, "Look away, look away." There's nothing but dismay, so look away. I just wanted to turn off the news, completely unplug from it all. And what could we possibly do as just civilians? I don't know. Is this how the Germans felt when Hitler came into power and took over? I just feel really powerless in this moment to do anything personally. And I was just preferring to look away from everything that was going on rather than face this harsh reality. And I think that's what they want us to do. They want us to be so afraid that we're not watching. And there's terrible things happening, and so many of us were just looking away because we're just so powerless against this dictatorship, this tyranny. But then I started tuning into AOC and Elizabeth Warren, who are urging us not to look away, to actually pay attention, to lock in, to hyper-focus on what is going on, and really join the resistance. Part of this collective awakening, part of this American revolution that is Pluto in Aquarius absolutely happening. We've got to push back. We've got to push against the things that the Republicans are doing because this is our fight. And we were born for these times, and this is our moment. It is time to disrupt the broken system in our own ways collectively. And the way I lock in for myself is to just look at the astrology. So I started looking at Trump's astrology, and I've been really super busy all month. I've been doing a lot of New Year's 9-star key astrology and Zoom astrology readings for people who want to know what this year will bring them, including my package, The Works, where you get a full chart, a Zoom, a 9-star key astrology reading, and everything with energy clearing and Reiki. And as I was doing these readings on Zoom and I was circling the charts, so many of my clients said, "Oh, I love how you circle things on the chart. It helps me understand." And they want to know how I'm reading their charts. So if you tune in for this reading, I'm going to pull up Trump's chart on my Zoom, just like I do when I do individual Zoom readings for people. So this way I can actually circle things and show you when I'm talking about different transits. You can see for yourself. I'll circle the most important transits that are really going to affect Trump. But Trump will be really affected this March, something we call the Ides of March, and it relates to the fall of Julius Caesar. And Trump has the Ides of March really hitting him hard this spring. So I am going to just lay it out with all the transits and circle them on a Zoom as we go. And I do these Western astrology reports. My name is Terry. I am an astrologer and a Reiki master if you're new here. I also do 9-star key astrology, which is a different Japanese astrology, to help you to align to the energy of our times. And if you like, comment, and subscribe on this video, you will be in it to win it for a free 9-star key astrology reading. I'm doing those every month on the full moon. I do a giveaway. And when I started looking at Trump's chart, I really wanted to explore what is going to happen when Uranus enters Gemini on July 7th, 2025. This year, Uranus has been in Taurus for a really long time, but Uranus is going to move on to Trump's sign of Gemini. Uranus, the planet of unexpected, shocking events, that wild card energy. And Uranus will be hanging out in Gemini until 2033. So this is a long transit, Uranus and Gemini. Uranus, the planet of unexpected, shocking events, but also innovation and breakthroughs and quantum leaping. And entering Gemini, who's already so unpredictable. I always like to say with Geminis, I think of a squirrel. Geminis are always going off in different directions. You don't know what to think they're going to do next, but Uranus in Gemini is going to bring us this new kind of freedom. This Uranus in Gemini will bring Trump a Uranus return when Uranus crosses over his stellium in Gemini, his north node of purpose at 20 degrees of Gemini, his sun at 22 degrees of Gemini. But Uranus takes a full 84 years to make that return. And as I started to do the math, as I was looking at this, I know that that Uranus return is going to bring total upheaval to Trump. And I wanted to see what was going to happen, but I realized Trump is really only 79 years. He'll turn 80 years this June. And so when we're looking at a Uranus return, he's really got a solid 5 more years until Uranus rocks his world. And so he probably won't be our president in 5 years from now, right? We're not going to elect him again, are we? So I guess that won't get rid of him. We can't wait for the Uranus return to do anything. And so then I started looking instead at some of these spring eclipses that we're going to be having. We're going to have spring eclipses on that Pisces Virgo axis that we're just moving into for 2025. But we're also going to have a solar eclipse in March on that Aries axis, which was the axis we were in for all of last year. I did a report on that Aries Libra axis. I'll drop that down below if you want to know more about the Aries Libra. And I'm just now working on my Pisces Virgo axis. And we may have a better chance of creating some kind of change in power with Trump when the Ides of March threaten Trump's power, just like they took out Julius Caesar. Trump has that kind of Caesar power for sure, because look at what happened on Inauguration Day. And so now I'm gonna switch gears and I'm gonna turn it over to my Zoom so I can start showing you the chart. I have the chart for Inauguration Day where we have that Sun, Pluto, CAZIMI, and then we're just gonna go on from there and then really see how these Ides of March will be impacting Trump. So now I'm going to switch to the Zoom view because I want to show you some of these transits. And I wrote an absolute novel of information on Trump's volatile transits that are coming during this Ides of March, this precarious time for Trump. And I won't cover it all here, but I am going to post them to my Substack soon. So stay tuned. I will drop a link in the description when I have that up and ready. But what I really want to start with here is that Sun Pluto conjunction that was happening on the inauguration on Monday, January 20th. We had this powerful Sun Pluto, CAZIMI in the house of Aquarius, really closely coming into that part of fortune. And this, if you look over at Trump's chart, this is Donald Trump's chart, that Aquarius, Pluto, these are current transits, not the transit of the day, but that Pluto is happening in Aquarius in Trump's sixth house of his work schedule. And he had a real shift to his work schedule on Inauguration Day. And the Pluto Sun conjunction, known as a Pluto CAZIMI, happened in Trump's and that happened in Trump's sixth house. And this just gave his career this ultimate power as a true plutocrat. This is a person whose power comes from great wealth. And this Pluto CAZIMI gave Trump absolute power and money as that crossed this part of fortune. And so this think of all that money that he made on Inauguration Day. The big tech CEOs kicked in $200 million. That was an inauguration record-breaking profits. Nobody in the history of America who's ever received $200 million during their inauguration. Not to mention his meme coin generated an additional $11 billion profit. And that's really when this sun crossed over that part of fortune that is happening at 21 degrees of Aquarius. That's sun and part of fortune that is like a part of fortune CAZIMI. And so he just had all this money generated, and we're really looking at Pluto, though, and Pluto, as Pluto giveth, Pluto will also taketh away. Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio, and it's all about that death, transformation, and rebirth cycle that America is going through, as we have been for a while. We just had our Pluto return. America's chart had a Pluto return. But don't worry, because America will rise from the ashes like the phoenix. The Pluto symbol is the phoenix rising from the ashes. And together we will rise. We will get through this. And Pluto rules over sex and secrets. And it's so interesting that Pluto played such a big role in Trump's inauguration, because all of these men he's placed in cabinet and powerful positions like Elon Musk and just all the men that are really coming into power in his whole cabinet right now, they all have one thing in common. So many of them are sexual predators with these torrid sex scandals or broken relationships, or really have treated women poorly in the past, every single one of them, which is really interesting because we also have Venus exalted right now, saying that the divine feminine power is coming into play. But Pluto brings suspicion, and there's a lot of secrets about what they're doing. That all comes back to this initial Pluto Sun conjunction that we are still soaking in this transit. And Pluto will be in Trump's sixth house of what he does every day in his daily routine. And Pluto is really bringing up secrets about just these ways that they are assaulting America. It's like Lady Liberty is being raped right now. And ultimately, Pluto will be bringing scandals to light because Pluto is the planet that always digs deep into the underworld and reveals what lurks in the shadows. The unknown secrets will be revealed in the coming months. I'm sure of it. But ultimately, this Pluto Sun CAZIMI, even though it gave Trump absolute power like a king or a monarch, this is a challenging aspect that is breaking down old, worn out systems as we are witnessing, but it comes with these intense power struggles and enemies from within. Enemies from within is this Pluto Sun CAZIMI in Aquarius. And is JD Vance, who used to hate him, is he an enemy from within? Is Elon Musk actually a frenemy? Are there secret plots against Trump? Pluto will bring corruption and abuse of power, and a Pluto Sun CAZIMI can really magnify feelings of paranoia, where you're paranoid that everyone is conspiring against you, which can lead to madness. And you're not wrong about that if you're Trump. I think there are people, frenemies, that are conspiring against Trump. And just what is going on in Trump's mind right now as he's dealing with all these powerful people that may be conspiring against him. And this absolute power that came from this Pluto Sun CAZIMI, Mercury's right there too. Mercury's the mind. And this brought him power, but power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So there is absolutely a corruption of power going on, and we are all seeing that play out in the news. And we're about to see some obsessive compulsive behaviors that could lead to a mental health crisis as Pluto continues its transit in Trump's sixth house of daily work schedules, daily routines, and habits, where Pluto will be in Aquarius, is going to be transiting for a long time in Trump's sixth house. And sixth house transits with Pluto brings too much work to be done. You're not able to complete all the tasks. You're trying to do too much. And that sounds like Trump. It's a heap of work responsibilities that can overwhelm and exhaust you until you have a mental breakdown or complete burnout. And that is coming. And Pluto is the planet that is the great transformer. So we are seeing massive reforms and policies at the White House, but Pluto is also forcing Trump to do some internal transformation, to look at his own shadow side, to go deeper and delve into his internal problems, because Pluto rules the psyche. Pluto brings us psychology, and Pluto can be digging up Trump's deepest, most unconscious aspects of his mind related to the power that he's stepping into. Pluto can bring about profound upheaval, forcing Trump to confront and release some kind of deep buried trauma, some past secrets, some past situations. It's all going to come up. And Pluto in the sixth house also brings those bad habits, unhealthy addictions, drinking, perhaps prescription drug abuse to mask buried pain, Trump's own shadow side, and dealing with perhaps some bad habits. This is going to become his worst inner enemy, the enemy within. The enemy within Trump is himself. And that will bring about his own demise and situations this spring around his failing mental health, sex, love, money. We're going to talk about all the eighth house, sex, love, and money kind of stuff. And there will be some impossible circumstances coming to him in this March, Ides of March season, that he just can't deal with. And then there will be this sort of unraveling happening within his psyche. We may just witness more insanity to come, where even the Republicans will have to admit there is a mental health crisis happening here. And that is so tied to this Pluto in the sixth house. But Trump has these incredible survival instincts. He gets by with a little help from his friends and family and the support of his loyal followers. But as we go into the Ides of spring, the Ides of March, which was Julius Caesar's downfall, we will see a crack in Trump's foundation. Just like there were problems for Julius Caesar, the Ides of March will bring a crack in Trump's foundation, where friends, family, and followers might all turn on him, where he's living in this ethereal reality, which is going to be a lot to do with his Neptune, Chiron, and Jupiter in Libra are going to play a role. And he is becoming even more delusional. And the people who supported him in the past will no longer be there for him, will no longer protect him. And there will be people, maybe even J.D. Vance, who comes forward to say Trump is simply unfit to serve. And perhaps they will have to invoke the 25th Amendment. It's all written in the stars as we go on reading this chart. But I also want to talk about this Venus-Saturn conjunction that we also had in Pisces right here. Venus conjunct Saturn was happening at that same time of the inauguration. And that Pisces, that lands in Trump's seventh house. So you can see Saturn here. Pisces has moved on in the current transits, but here is that Saturn, and this is seventh house. You can't really see the seven. I'll just draw a seven. Oh, that's a bad seven. Anyways, it's the seventh house of relationships, bringing him severe relationship challenges and perhaps challenges with partnerships. Pisces rules that 12th house that always brings endings. Is Trump's marriage over? Is some partnerships over? Are they just pretending to be together? This could be part of Trump's psychological decline this spring, because we all saw how Melania would not accept his kiss during the inauguration. You could blame it on her hat, but a woman who loves her husband would tilt her hat to get that kiss. And she was so cold to Trump on the inauguration. And she's really been cold, seeming cold and not affectionate since all of his lawsuits involving all of the adultery that he's taken place with other women and all the women who've accused him of things. We really haven't seen an ounce of affection from Melania in years. But she was particularly frigid and resistant to Trump's affection. And that is this Venus and Saturn in Pisces showing up in Trump's seventh house. That is a woman scorned vibe. And Saturn brings restrictions. And Venus is the planet of love and divine feminine energy. So Trump may be facing restricted love or limitation of affection. Melania refuses to live with her husband. You can't deny they have some serious marital problems. And this is bringing these boundaries, but Saturn in the seventh house can also bring separation and divorce. And Venus is in her superpower right now at her brightest phase on February 16th, right as I record this. But then she will begin to retrograde back. And a lot of us will be having some relationship issues when Venus retrogrades for the next few months. But for Trump, being that Venus, who is right here, right now, Venus is going to go back to the seventh house and hit that Saturn again. Venus will conjunct Saturn again on March 21st. This is significant because something major is going to happen to Trump. on March 22nd. And could it be related to Melania? Plot twist. Stay tuned to find out how the Ides of March will be a dangerous time for Trump. So first of all, we have Jupiter, who just stationed direct on February 4th, meaning Jupiter is at its most potent, powerful self as the great expander. Jupiter right here in Gemini is benefic for Trump. Gemini, when it travels through the home sign of your sun, North Node, Uranus, Gemini or Jupiter is like the king of wishes who grants wishes. Jupiter traveling through Gemini is probably why Trump won the election. So Jupiter in Trump's 10th house of career is also expanding his power, and Jupiter will come into conjunction with Trump's Uranus, his north node of purpose, and his sun, creating that powerful Jupiter Sun CAZIMI at some time this spring. Some guys have all the luck, and Trump just been known to be saved by Jupiter. Jupiter on his midheaven is when he won the election against all odds. But soon Jupiter will continue on to move into Cancer in June, and Trump's lucky reign may run out by June. So let's unpack what is going to happen when Jupiter conjuncts Trump's Uranus. Uranus is right here. If you can see, this is Trump's Uranus, and he is just about to have this Jupiter conjunct Uranus at 17 degrees of Gemini. This is a sign of chaos coming to social structures and systems. But what does the Sabian symbol say for that Uranus at 17 degrees of Gemini? It shows that Trump is going to go through a process of mental metamorphosis, some big, usually shocking change. Uranus is all about unexpected surprises and shocking events. And Gemini is a very mentally active sign ruled by Mercury. And then Uranus always brings these breakthroughs, and you can just quantum leap with the power of Uranus. So something is going to change Trump's mind in wildly unpredictable ways. He's a Gemini. He's already so hard to predict. I always like to say about my Gemini friends, they are like always changing their mind. And if they see a squirrel, it's like, squirrel! They're going in a totally different direction. And when Jupiter, the expander, conjuncts Trump's Uranus, that Uranus that already makes Trump such a wild card, unpredictable guy, he may just lose his mind about something when Jupiter conjuncts Uranus. And then Jupiter is also trining all of these signs down here in Trump's second house of wealth, which shows up with Libra. Libra, all about relationships. And so we have a trine between this Jupiter Uranus conjunction trining his second house of Neptune, delusion, illusion, Chiron and Jupiter, where they're in almost close conjunction. Chiron is those deep wounds, that pain body, that's something that needs to be healed. And Jupiter is an expansion of Chiron here in his second house of Libra. That is all about his money. He's got his mind on his money, and it's also about Libra relationships and how to keep the peace within your relationships. And so there's going to be these Neptunian delusions about his finances that will be expanded alongside his deep relationship, Libra trauma, wounds triggered by that Chiron Jupiter conjunction being trined by Jupiter. This is an opportunity for deep healing. And Trump will have this expansion of trauma and deep inner wounds that come to the surface that needs to be addressed and healed right now in his second house of wealth. There could be a healing crisis that is triggered for Trump with Saturn trining his midheaven, also bringing soul lessons, bringing up love problems. I've talked about this in Trump's Will He Win video too. I think that he's had a deep heartache since 2024. And sometimes when you're just very ambitious and you ignore your body, I am a body worker, I have seen this. If you ignore your body can act out physically. So if you're ignoring your heartache, maybe you have a heart attack physically or have some kind of massive problem with his heart, also could be indicated here. But the date to really set your calendars to is this March 22nd. This is in that Ides of March time. And this is the time when Julius Caesar died. And it's in the midst, this year, it's in the midst of a powerful eclipse portal that starts on March 14th and ends on March 29th. And this eclipse portal in the Pisces Virgo axis and also the Aries Libra axis, that's Pisces is about endings, Aries is about beginnings. So we are in an eclipse portal that is all about the end of an era and the beginning of a new way forward. And I'm cautiously optimistic that something's going to happen that's going to be good. I don't know. But Uranus will conjunct Trump's midheaven when we have this. So we have Uranus in Taurus, and here is his midheaven at that 24 degrees mark. And as Uranus crosses, and here I'll show you on the March 22nd chart, it's right here. So there's Uranus crossing Taurus on Trump's midheaven. This is a predestined, this is your destiny. Something's going to happen that was written in the stars. There's no getting out of it. This is something big when Uranus conjuncts Trump's midheaven at 24 degrees on March 22nd. Mark your calendars, date it with a star. Something is going to happen to bring changes. And the midheaven is about your career, your public persona, who you are. And this same Uranus midheaven transit happened back in June 2024, right when we had that Mars Uranus transit in that same 24 to 26 degrees, which is right there at the constellation of ALGOL. ALGOL in the Perseus constellation, that is the demon star who brings head injuries. And if you remember, that was June 2024 when we had that transit when Trump was shot in the head at his rally in Pennsylvania. And I talk about that in my astrology report for that June time. I really unpack the ALGOL star in relation to Perseus and the Medusa myth, and I won't go into all of it here, but this is why this transit brings about head injuries. And it is worth listening to if you want to get a deeper understanding. If you're ALGOL star curious, I will link it down below in the description and the comments. But it's interesting whenever I am doing astrology charts. As a healer, I'm a Reiki master teacher healer. I always start empathing people's pain body. That's just who I am. I just start taking on like weird symptoms that I know it's not my thing. It's because I'm reading. And while I've been reading Trump's chart over the last couple days, I tell you, I have had horrible headaches. And my forehead even felt tender, like I bumped my head. I thought, I didn't bump my head. What is that? And I've had insomnia. And it leads me to think Uranus, who brings accidents,
maybe Uranus is going to have, there's going to be a trip and a fall, and Trump hits his head, or maybe Trump's not sleeping well. And if you're not sleeping well, that can lead to accidents. There are a lot of stairs in the White House, and I'm certain something will happen to Trump's head again. It could just be that he loses his mind, but this is a significant Uranus crossing Trump's midheaven. This time we have Mars in his 11th house, and that will bring right over here. There's Mars in his 11th house, and 11th house is your friendship. And when you have Mars transiting, it's Mars retrograde too. Mars transiting his 11th house will be in a trine to this Uranus crossing the midheaven, and that could bring a war with friends. That is that enemy within, somebody you know who you thought was a friend, but they're actually really vying against you. Could it be Elon? Could it be Putin? Or is it JD Vance, who we all know secretly hates him, or not so secretly? He spoke out. I can't believe Trump would choose a vice president who had spoken out about how much he hated him before. So when Uranus crosses that ALGOL star at 26 degrees, once again, this could bring Trump another unexpected, shocking blow to his head in some way. Or maybe it's just that he loses his head, loses his mind, or maybe he falls and bumps his head. Something is going to be, this is what I'm really looking out for this March 22nd, and I'm going to read Trump's midheaven Sabian symbol for that 24-degree mark of Taurus that is so significant for the Ides of March. And this is in close conjunction to that 26-degree ALGOL star in the constellation of Perseus, which is named after the illegitimate son of Zeus. ALGOL is known as the demon star, representing the floating head of Medusa, known as the Gorgo, and that was after Medusa was beheaded by Perseus. So that's why that ALGOL star always brings head injuries, because Medusa was beheaded. And here in the Sabian symbol, we see a head injury as it Taurus 24 is an Indian warrior riding fiercely, human scalps hanging from his belt. That is so eerie. I want to read it again. An Indian warrior riding fiercely with human scalps hanging from his belt. And these Sabian symbols were intuited by Elsie Wheeler so long ago, but they always have some meaning for our times. And the aggressiveness of human instinct when fighting for the earthly base of operation. In the mythology of early America, Indians represented the savage, close to nature, and led by this primordial instinct, which we really were against their savage scalping people. But alas, our present century has revealed that under far less imperative circumstances, civilized man is capable of even more cruel torture and extermination. So this symbol relates to the violence and aggressive emotions acted out upon potential enemies. At the emotional level, man apparently still believes in violence for sheer survival. And whenever I do Sabian symbols, I love to look at the next degree for a progression. So let's look at Taurus, 25 degrees, is a vast public park. And the keynote is a cultivation of natural energies for the collective use and recreation. This is a positive result of man's collective endeavor to live in peace and enjoy moments of relaxation. This public park is designed and kept for the enjoyment of all. This is a symbol of collective enjoyment. Well, that's really a different symbol when you go just 1 degree. So, what is this collective rejoicing about here? That is interesting. I'm not sure. But this is kind of these Sabian symbols just give a little clue to what could happen. What will we see on March 22nd? Uranus is that wild card energy. It is so hard to predict anything with certainty. I'm just having fun trying to figure out what's going to happen next, like all of us are. But mark your calendars. March 26th, 2nd will be a big day for Trump, regardless, with Uranus crossing that midheaven. Something's going to happen then. And then we have these spring eclipses still happening in that Ides of March time, bringing the fall of Caesar in some ways. And the first round of eclipse activity we have is a total lunar eclipse happening on that Pisces Virgo axis. And so you can see here we have all these planets. Look at all these planets lining up. As we just had that big planetary alignment, there's still so many planets lined up: Saturn, Sun, North Node, Neptune, Venus, Mercury, and Chiron, all hanging out. Venus is retrograded back, and they're all hanging out in Pisces. And then we have Virgo, the moon in Virgo for that total lunar eclipse. Virgo, of course, opposing Pisces. And this is all year we're going to be having eclipses on this Pisces. Something is ending, and this Virgo, natural ruler of that sixth house of routines. And what's going to happen next? Well, let's just look over at Trump's for what's going on with, we already know that Pisces is his seventh house of relationships, but this is a later degree of Pisces, so it's really hitting more in his eighth house, the eighth house of sex, death, and money. And his Virgo is happening in his third house. Whoops, sorry, that's Scorpio. I'm sorry, his Virgo is happening in his first house, where he is a Virgo rising. So this eclipse portal is really going to affect his eighth house, sex, death, and money, and then his first house, who he is. And your first house is like what you show to the world. So something could be revealed to the world around sex, death, and money. There will be something that comes as a big shock. And it's that eighth house is also about secrets. That eighth house is ruled by Pluto. So everything we were talking about with Pluto comes up around the eighth house, things being revealed that relate to sex, death, money, also taxes. It could be he gets tax audited. It could be some kind of secret scandal coming to light on this total lunar eclipses. Sometimes that full moon can shine a light on something that needs to come forward to be released, right? That's what we do on full moons. We release something into the light. And there is a secret that comes to light that could affect his whole family this March. There is a dissolution here, a total breakdown. And I really want to look at Melania's chart next because I feel like she's involved in this. So we first have that total lunar eclipse on March 14th on the Pisces Virgo axis. I'm going to unpack these spring eclipses even more later in my astrology report. But I do love just a little hint at the Sabian symbols. It involves a lion tamer displaying resoluteness. A lion tamer displaying resoluteness in skill. So who's the lion tamer? Is Melania the lion tamer and Trump is the lion? And another Sabian symbol for the total solar eclipse I looked up is Mary, who had a little lamb, swears she is innocent. These saving symbols are so fun to read. They're just little clues to like, what is going on? Mary had a little lamb and she swears she's innocent. I don't know what that means, but as I was unpacking all this and I was uncovering these saving symbols and doing Trump's chart, I swear to you that song, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, just started playing loudly in my head. And this happens sometimes when I'm reading people's astrology charts. I will just get songs. Songs are divine messengers for me. And all the time I tell people, oh, this song came up, and they'll say, oh, that's my mother's favorite song on my mother's past. Or there's always like stories with songs. But I just heard Billie Jean in my head. And Trump does have a thing for beauty queens. If you know the lyrics of Billie Jean, Michael Jackson sings, Billie Jean is at my door. And then she says, the kid is not my son, but she says he's the one. So it's about an illegitimate son. Could Trump have an illegitimate son? Is that what's going to be exposed during this Ides of March eclipse portal? I don't know. I feel like there's an illegitimate son coming to the surface, just as Taurus, 24 degrees, relates to Perseus, who is Zeus's illegitimate son. Perseus is an illegitimate son. And Trump has that Uranus midheaven at that Perseus degree. I feel like something could happen to Trump, and the whole thing is so unknown. It is because it's Uranus involved. It's a wild card, but it reminds me of playing Clue. I love to play the board game Clue. Do you guys play Clue? Could it be the illegitimate child in the Oval Office of the White House with the knife that scalps Trump? I'm talking crazy now, but maybe he just falls and hits his head, or maybe he just loses his mind. But something is going to happen, and I'm going to say there's an illegitimate child involved in the whole drama, whatever that drama is, that's a part of Trump's healing crisis that is triggered by this eclipse portal and that March 22nd big Uranus midheaven transit. And a lunar eclipse in Virgo in the 8th house really brings this crazy making change of plans, pushing Trump to confront some secret that comes up around shared resources. That's 8th house shared resources. Illegitimacy lives in the 8th house, all those sex scandals and dependence. And perhaps there will be some kind of cathartic release of old trauma around this old drama that just comes up in an abrupt way that can bring a real physical pain. Talk about a headache when your illegitimate son shows up and you're president. But I wouldn't go so far as to say death. I don't see death here for Trump, even though this is the sex, money, and death. But hospitals could clearly be involved because 12th house Pisces coming in strong on this eclipse, that whole stellium of planets that we're seeing in the house of Pisces. During this eclipse, we have Saturn, Sun, North Node, and Neptune. I'm also interested in Black Moon Lilith showing up at 28 degrees of Libra. Black Moon Lilith will be nearing conjunction to Trump's Jupiter. Gosh, that is really interesting. Black Moon Lilith isn't shown on this chart, but it is going to be really close in conjunction to that Chiron Jupiter, that whatever Trump needs to heal. There is something that needs to be healed. There's a woman scorned who may come knocking. Perhaps that's Mary with her little lamb. When I did a synastry chart between America and Donald Trump, I'm not going to show that one just yet, but in a relationship with current transits, I find some even more interesting Jupiter and Uranus show up in the 8th house of sex, death, and money too. When you combined America with Trump's chart, There's an expansion of shock and awe happening during this eclipse, and all things sex, death, and money as it relates to America, too. And being born on an eclipse makes Trump more susceptible to sudden changes during eclipse seasons and eclipse cycles. So when I look at that Sun conjunct Saturn in Pisces, that Saturn CAZIMI coming up in Trump's seventh house of relationship, there are some big soul lessons in love, bringing a grand cross for Trump with a square to both the sun and the moon. Let me see if I could just draw that for you for a second, because it is this grand cross happening at this, with these squares. And if you look at the lunar eclipse, this is making a kite. Whenever we see a kite, something major is going to happen in our world. This is a kite, and Virgo moon is holding the string of the kite, and Pisces is the top of the kite. These kite transits, they are like the hand of God and fate and destiny, and something major is going to occur here. So this double square to both sun and moon for Trump really is reminiscent of that powerful Leo full moon we just had that had sun, moon square. Sun and moon were both squaring Uranus. Uranus, who just stationed direct, and then the sun and the full moon Leo were both squaring. Of course, Uranus and Taurus, that's a fixed sign. So this Uranus and Taurus energy is going to affect all the fixed signs: Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. If you are a Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, that's Uranus is going to affect you as well. And it was just squaring the sun and moon on that Leo full moon, bringing us all that double diamond making pressure, the challenges and crisis. And Trump was feeling it too. We all have those fixed signs somewhere in our chart. So if you want to know more about the intensity of that sun moon square from the Leo full moon that we're still soaking in, you can watch that Leo full moon report. But this double square Saturn, Sun, Saturn, CAZIMI, bringing that diamond making pressure to Trump's relationship and partnership, seventh house Pisces. It really indicates that trust has been broken, and this moon will reveal an injury to his relationship in a big way. And at the best you could ask for is like a lot of forgiveness. This is a time to work on forgiveness in your relationships, to heal whatever is showing up. And following the lunar eclipse is a partial solar eclipse. Let me pull that chart up. So this solar eclipse in Aries is happening on March 29th. And that is right, you can see it right here in the chart. There's still that whole stellium of planets hanging out in Pisces: Saturn, North Node, Venus, Neptune. And now we have the sun and the moon creating a partial solar eclipse right here in Aries. And where does that show up for Trump? Again, in that eighth house, right next to where that lunar eclipse was happening. And so Trump's eighth house of sex, death, and money once again forming a square to his 11th house of friends. He's having challenges. His friends are talking bad about him, and that is opposite his Neptune. This man is feeling confused. He's wrapped up in illusion and delusion. And that square with his eighth house friends, his square to his 11th house friends has Mercury, the sign of gossip, the sign of communication, but When it shows up in the 11th house, Mercury is your friends gossiping about you. So everybody's talking about what we're going to do with Trump now. And we have this whole eclipse portal that begins on March 14th with the lunar eclipse Virgo, then continues through that when we have that March 22nd, that big day, that Uranus crossing the midheaven, we will still be in this eclipse portal when something rocks Trump's world with that Uranus unexpected shocking event. But now, as we hit the solar eclipse, March 29th, at the end of this portal, his friends and supporters are really talking about him in a bad way. Squares or challenges, conflict, crisis. So maybe even Republican senators are finally convinced that something needs to happen, that Trump may be unfit to serve. Could the 25th Amendment be invoked during this eclipse portal? Because maybe Trump has a head injury, an actual physical falling, hitting your head kind of injury that makes him not able to serve. Or maybe, I don't know, or maybe he just loses his mind. Something, I'm going to put money on something's going to happen to Trump's head.
And we have that Uranus in Aquarius, bringing power to the people. This brings revolutions. This brings protests. I envision that there could be some kind of Tiananmen Square style protests as the resistance to Trump is growing stronger. And we may look back at this time in American history as the time when dictatorship failed, when we proved that we will not go back. We will not have a dictator. And I would compare this moment once again to the death of Julius Caesar, who died on March 15th, bringing us the Ides of March, which we always say every March, terrible things can happen, especially in politics, bringing this whole report full circle back to that series of unfortunate events. Only this time, I do believe the series of unfortunate events will be affecting Trump, not because of Trump. And something could happen to Trump this Ides of March. And it may just be like Caesar's fall from grace to his deathly doom, when senators feared that Caesar was becoming a dictator and Caesar was assassinated. Will our Republican senators finally stand up to Trump? I hope so. And I hope the one lesson we can learn from all this is just how truly corrupt these Republican senators are, that they would stand by Trump as he's making these crazy making choices. And it's time for someone to save Our Lady Liberty, because she is just being raped and pillaged by this administration, by all the Republican senators, by Trump. And I hope that we can save Lady Liberty. And I think that something's going to shift. I do see J.D. Vance moving into power at some point during this next 4 years. J.D. Vance has this Uranus transiting, affecting his career in the 10th house, bringing big change. And he will suddenly step in as president with that Saturn sextile his midheaven. Saturn is bringing him a harmonious transit that he is willing to take on responsibility. He is willing to move into a place of leadership and to do whatever it takes to succeed in a new role. And I personally wouldn't have voted for J.D. Vance, but maybe I would rather have him than Trump at this point. So anyways, I'd like to look at Elon Musk's chart next. And because Elon has this Uranus opposite Jupiter, bringing a whole hectic chaos to his life this year. And who would you have me read next? I would love to know if you have an idea for someone or something that you want me to read. I want to keep doing these Zoom readings, so let me know. Drop it in the comments, and I will see you next time.